Hello, and welcome back to Super English Talks. I'm Sarah, and I'm so glad you're here. If you're watching this video, it probably means you're on a mission. A mission to improve your English, to feel more confident when you speak, and to connect with people all over the world. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. We're going to dive deep into a topic that's both challenging and rewarding. How to talk about your English learning journey. Sharing your experiences, your struggles, and your successes with others. Because let's be honest, talking about your progress is one of the best ways to actually make progress. I get a lot of messages from you all asking, Sarah, how do I tell someone I'm learning English? Or what's the right way to say I'm not very confident? These are all great questions, and today we're going to answer them. We'll discover some key phrases you can use to describe your learning experience. We'll practice listening to some natural conversations. And I'll give you some of my best tips to help you boost your English fluency. And of course, we'll go through some real-life speaking examples that you can practice on your own. So, whether you're a beginner just starting to say hello, or you've been learning for years but you still feel stuck, this video is for you. So grab a cup of coffee or tea, get comfortable, and let's get into it. I want you to feel more confident sharing your English story, and most importantly, I want you to feel good about the progress you're making. Let's get started. Describing your English learning journey. So, let's start with some of the most common questions you might get. Someone might ask you, how's your English coming along? Or have you been learning English for a long time? How do you answer these questions? You can say, I've been learning English for about a year now, or I'm a beginner, but I'm trying my best. See? Easy. Now, what if you want to be a bit more specific? You could say, my English is getting better, but I still have a lot to learn. This is a really honest and natural way to talk about your progress. You're acknowledging that you're improving, but you're also being realistic. Another great phrase is, I'm a little rusty, but I'm trying to practice more. We use the word rusty when we haven't used a skill in a while and we're not as good at it as we used to be. It's a very common native speaker phrase for those of you who have been learning for a while. You might say, I've reached a good level, but I'm working on my fluency. This is perfect for someone who understands a lot but wants to speak more smoothly. Or you could say, my vocabulary is pretty good, but I struggle with pronunciation. It's always helpful to identify your specific challenges. This helps others understand what you're working on, and it can even lead to them giving you great advice. Part 1. The foundation, a confident mindset before we get to the words and phrases. Let's talk about the most important thing, your mindset. Learning a language isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave. It's about trying, making mistakes, and learning from them. I want you to remember that your journey is unique, and every single step, no matter how small, is a victory. The key to talking about your English is to do it with confidence, not arrogance, but a quiet belief in your own effort. When someone asks you about your English, don't apologize for it. Don't start with, "I'm sorry, my English is not very good." Instead, start with a positive and honest statement. A great way to begin is by saying something like, "I'm working on my English, and it's been a really interesting process." This shows that you're an active participant in your learning and that you're proud of it. It's a huge difference from a defensive or apologetic tone. Remember, people are usually very happy that you're making the effort to learn their language. They're not there to judge you. They're there to connect with you. So, start every conversation with a confident mindset, and the rest will follow. Part 2. Practical phrases for every stage of learning now. Get into the nitty-gritty. We'll break down how to talk about your English skills based on your level. If you're a beginner, you might feel like you can't say much at all, but that's not true. You can say a lot about your experience. For example, you can say, "I'm just starting to learn English. I know a few words and phrases, but I'm still learning the basics. My listening skills are okay, but speaking is hard for me." See? You're not saying, "I don't know anything." You're giving a specific and accurate description of where you are. This helps the other person understand how to communicate with you. They might speak more slowly or use simpler words, which is a big help. If you're at an intermediate level, you're probably at a stage where you can understand a lot, but speaking is still a struggle. This is a very common place to be, and it's important to have phrases to describe it. You can say, "I've been learning for a couple of years. I can understand a lot, but I still struggle with speaking fluently. My English is pretty good for reading and writing, but I get nervous when I have to have a conversation. I know the grammar rules, but I often can't find the right words when I'm speaking." This is great because it tells the other person that they don't need to oversimplify their language, but they should be patient with you as you form your thoughts. And for those of you who are more advanced, you might still have areas you want to improve. This is a great opportunity to be specific. You could say, "My English is pretty fluent, but I'm working on my pronunciation. I want to sound more natural. I'm focusing on expanding my vocabulary, especially for more professional or academic topics. I have a good grasp of the language, but I still make a few grammar mistakes here and there, and I want to fix them." Being specific like this shows that you're a serious learner, and it can even lead to some great targeted practice with a native speaker. Part 3. Dealing with challenges. And mistakes, let's be honest, mistakes happen. You'll forget a word, mix up tenses, or say something that doesn't quite make sense. It's okay. It's a natural part of the process. What's important is how you handle it. If you forget a word, you don't have to freeze up. You can say, "Hold on. What's that word for?" And then describe the word you're trying to find. This can be a fun way to use your existing vocabulary and get the other person to help you. "I'm sorry, I've just forgotten the word for that." You can then try to explain the concept in a different way. "Can you say that again, please?" Or, "I'm not sure I understood that." It's always better to ask for clarification than to pretend you understood. Get lost. Another great strategy is to use filler words to give yourself a moment to think. Words like, "well, so," or are perfectly natural in conversation. They buy you a second to remember the word you need without making the conversation awkward. Part 4. Real life. Scenarios and examples. Let's put this all together with some real-life scenario. Scenario A1. You're at a coffee shop and the barista asks you how you're doing. Instead of a simple good, you could say, "I'm doing well, thank you. I'm actually practicing my English today. It's a bit challenging, but fun." This is a quick and friendly way to open the door to a short conversation. The barista might be intrigued and ask you where you're from or what you're working on, giving you a chance to practice more. Scenario 2. You're in a group setting, like a conversation group or a class. And it's your turn to speak. You could start by saying, "Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. I've been learning English for a while now, and I'm really focused on improving my speaking skills. I'm excited to practice with all of you." This is a great way to introduce yourself, state your objective, and show that you're an engaged member of the group. Scenario 3. A friend asks you how your English studies are going. Instead of a one-word answer, you can be more descriptive. You could say, "It's going pretty well. I've been doing a lot of shadowing with TV shows, and I've noticed my pronunciation getting a lot better." Or, "I'm a bit frustrated with my vocabulary right now, but I just started keeping a new word journal, so I'm hoping that helps." This turns a simple question into a real conversation. Part 5. Final thoughts and a call to action. Remember, your English learning journey is a marathon, not a sprint. The key is consistency and a willingness to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to speak up, to make mistakes, and to ask for help. Every time you have a conversation, you're building a new brick in your foundation. I hope these phrases and tips give you the confidence to talk about your English progress, not as a weakness, but as a source of pride. 'Cause it is. You're doing something incredible, and you should be proud of every step you take. So, Here's my challenge for you. The next time someone asks you about your English, don't just say good. Tell them something specific. Tell them what you're working on, what you've recently learned, or a fun way you've been practicing.
Part 1. The power of a positive mindset before we get to any of the specific words. Let's talk about the most crucial ingredient for success: your mindset. I see so many learners start a conversation about their English with an apology. They say things like, "I'm sorry, my English isn't very good," or "Please, excuse my mistakes." I want you to stop doing that right now. Your effort to learn a new language is a sign of strength, not a weakness. It shows your dedication and your desire to connect dots. Instead of apologizing, I want you to start with a statement of pride. You could say, "I'm actively learning English, and it's a fantastic challenge." Or "I've been working on my English, and I'm really enjoying the process." This simple shift from an apologetic tone to a positive one changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. It tells the other person that you are confident in your effort, and it invites them to be a supportive part of your journey rather than a judge. Remember, people are almost always impressed and happy when they meet someone who is learning their language. They're on your side. So, let's embrace that from the very beginning. Part 2. A phrase for every stage of learning now. Let's get into the language itself. How do you describe where you are on your learning path? The key is to be specific and honest without being self-critical. If you're a beginner, you have so many ways to express your stage without sounding like you know nothing. You could say, "I'm a beginner, but I'm getting more comfortable with basic greetings and phrases. My listening skills are developing, and I can pick out a few words here and there. I'm focusing on building my vocabulary right now." This shows that you are actively learning, and it also gives the other person a clear idea of how to communicate with you. They'll know to speak a little more slowly or to use simpler language, which is a great thing. For those of you at an intermediate level, you're often in a phase I like to call the in-between stage. You know a lot, but you still feel like you're not fluent. This is a perfect opportunity to be descriptive. You can say, "I've been learning English for a few years. My reading and writing are strong, but I'm really trying to improve my speaking fluency. I understand most of what I hear, but sometimes when people speak too quickly, I get lost. I have a good vocabulary for everyday situations, but I'm working on more specialized topics like business or science." These phrases are excellent because they pinpoint your strengths while also clearly stating your goals. This makes the conversation productive and can even lead to the other person offering to help you practice in those specific areas. And for my more advanced learners, you're often working on the fine-tuning of your skills. You've come so far, and it's important to acknowledge that. You could say, "I'm pretty fluent, but I'm working on refining my pronunciation to sound more natural. I've reached a good level, but I'm always looking for opportunities to expand my vocabulary with idiomatic expressions. I feel confident in most conversations, but I still make a few common grammatical errors that I'm trying to correct." See how these statements are not about what you can't do, but about what you are currently working on. This is a huge positive shift in perspective, and it shows that you are a dedicated, lifelong learner. Part 3. Handling those awkward moments. Let's talk about the inevitable. The moment you freeze up, forget a word, or say something that doesn't quite come out right. These moments are not failures. They are opportunities. The way you handle them can make all the difference. If you forget a word, you can simply say, "The word is on the tip of my tongue." This is a very common idiom that native speakers use, and it shows that you know the word, you just can't remember it at that exact moment. You can also try to describe the word. For example, it's the thing you use to open a door, a key. This is a great way to use your existing vocabulary and get the other person involved in your learning. If you don't understand something, don't be afraid to ask for clarification. You can say, "I'm sorry, could you repeat that a little more slowly?" Or "I'm not familiar with that word. Could you explain what it means?" Asking questions is a sign of intelligence, not a lack of it. It shows that you are engaged in the conversation and genuinely want to understand. Part 4. My top 3 tips to accelerate your progressive. Shared a lot of phrases, but what about the actual practice? I want to give you 3 actionable tips that you can start using today to not only talk about your progress, but to actually accelerate it. 1. Embrace shadowing. I mentioned this in a previous video, but it's so important that I have to bring it up again. Shadowing is when you listen to a native speaker and repeat what they're saying as closely as possible. You mimic their pronunciation, their rhythm, their intonation, everything. You can do this with your favorite YouTube videos, podcasts, or even movies. It feels a little silly at first, but it is one of the most effective ways to train your mouth and brain to produce natural-sounding English. 2. Find a language partner. This is perhaps the most powerful tool you have. A language exchange partner is someone you meet with regularly to practice speaking. The best part is, it's a two-way street. You can practice English for 30 minutes and then practice their native language for the next 30 minutes. This creates a low-pressure, supportive environment where you both have a shared goal. There are many apps and websites dedicated to finding language partners, so go out and find one. 3. Record yourself speaking. I know. This one sounds a bit uncomfortable, but trust me, it's a game changer. Record yourself talking about your day, describing a picture, or even just reading a paragraph from a book. Then, listen to the recording. This allows you to hear your own mistakes, notice where you sound unnatural, and track your progress over time. It's like being your own personal coach, and it's a surefire way to boost your awareness of your own speaking. Part 5. Final thoughts and a call to action. Your English learning journey is an amazing story, and it's one you should be proud to share. Every word you learn, every conversation you have, every mistake you make is a step forward. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to keep going. Phrases for your struggles and successes. Let's talk about some of the challenges, because everyone faces them. You can say, I often get nervous when I have to speak English in front of people. This is a very common feeling, and sharing it can make you feel less alone. Or you might say, I find it hard to understand native speakers when they talk fast. Again, a completely normal struggle, but it's not all about struggles. It's also important to celebrate your successes. Akoka say, I'm really proud of my progress. I can now have a basic conversation without getting lost. Or, I recently watched an entire movie in English without subtitles, and I understood most of it. See? These are things you should be proud of, and it's great to share them. Saying things like this gives you a boost of confidence, and it can inspire other people to ** tips to improve your English fluency. Now, I want to share a few quick tips to help you on your journey. My first tip is to shadowing. This is what you do when you listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say, imitating their pronunciation and rhythm. Fantastic for improving your accent and your fluency. You can do this with your favorite TV shows, podcasts, or even with this very video. My second tip is to find a language partner. This is what Alex did in our practice conversation earlier. You can find someone online or in your community who is also learning a language. You can help each other out, and it's a great way to practice in a low-pressure environment. It feels less like a lesson and more like a real conversation, which is what we want. And my final tip is to record yourself speaking. I know, it sounds a little scary, but it's one of the best ways to notice your own mistakes. You can talk about your day, read a paragraph from a book, or even give a mini presentation on a random topic, just like Alex mentioned. Then, listen back. You'll be amazed at what you discover about your own speaking habits. Remember, the goal here is not perfection, it's progress. Every time you open your mouth to speak, you're getting better. Every mistake you make is a lesson learned. So, don't be afraid to try. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this video gives you the confidence you need to start sharing your English story. Now, go out there and practice. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Super English Talks, and let me know in the comments below what's one thing you're proud of in your English learning journey. I'll see you in the next video.